You ever wonder how a grand national policy, a huge vision for a country's future, actually becomes real? It doesn't just happen on its own. It takes an architect. And today, we're telling the story of the man who pretty much built India's ethanol economy from the ground up, Fani Mohan Kancharla.
And this quote, it just nails his whole vision. See, for Kancharla, ethanol was never just about swapping out some gasoline. It was about building a whole new, more sustainable future for energy, for agriculture, and for the entire Indian economy.
So let's rewind the clock to 2003. India makes this really bold move. It announces a national policy to start blending ethanol, which, is a biofuel made from crops like sugarcane, right into its gasoline. The idea here was simple, really. Cut down on expensive imported fossil fuels and at the same time kickstart a brand new domestic industry.
But here's the thing. Declarations are just words on a piece of paper. A policy is like a map, but it's not the actual territory. So the huge question hanging in the air was, who's going to pick up the blueprints and actually start building this thing?
All right, so in this first section, we're going to dive into that massive gap between the government's ambition and the actual on-the-ground action that was needed to make any of it happen. The official name was the Ethanol Blending Program, or EBP, and the idea sounded super straightforward. Just mandate that a certain percentage of all gasoline sold in the country had to be ethanol. A simple goal, right? Well, it turned out to be an incredibly complex undertaking.
And this slide just lays out the sheer scale of the problem. On paper, you had this incredible, bold vision, but in reality, there was nothing. No special port terminals, no tanker trucks equipped to handle a flammable product, no reliable labs for quality control. And maybe the biggest hurdle of all, there was absolutely zero market confidence. Nobody, and I mean nobody, from farmers to financiers, believed this could actually work on a national scale.
And this is where our architect finally enters the story. Fani Mohan Kancharla looked at this huge gap, not as a problem, but as the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to build the entire backbone of a new industry from scratch.
He didn't just sit around and theorize, he got to work, breaking it all down into real, concrete steps. First, he tackled the punishing physics of the supply chain itself, figuring out the logistics to move super thick, viscous molasses and then the highly flammable ethanol. Then, he built the trade and financial systems to make bulk exports possible for big producers like Jaipur Sugars. And by helping these stranded companies find buyers around the world, he created undeniable proof that this wasn't some fantasy. It was a real, working, profitable business.
Okay, so from here, Kancharla's work really started to scale up, and fast. He was transforming from a guy figuring out domestic logistics into a recognized voice for Indian ethanol on the world stage.
This timeline just lays out his 2-decade journey perfectly. You can literally see the progression. In 2003, he's in the trenches, building the foundation. By 2005, boom, he's proving the model can work globally. By 2009, he's actually helping shape national policy. Then in 2015, he connects it all to global climate action. And by 2021, when India sets its most ambitious target ever, he's the guy everyone turns to.
And listen, this wasn't just about making business deals. He was shaping the entire intellectual conversation. By presenting these detailed technical papers at major international conferences, we're talking New Orleans, Coimbatore, Delhi. He was building serious credibility, not just for himself, but for India's whole industry, showing the world they were a serious player in the global biofuel economy.
So the story takes another really critical turn right here, because as the rest of the world started getting really serious about climate change, well, the rules of the game changed for everyone, especially in the ethanol industry.
Yeah, the 2015 Paris Agreement was a total game changer. Almost overnight, it wasn't enough for a fuel to just be renewable. Now it had to be provably sustainable. For an exporter, this meant sustainability was basically your passport to trade with huge markets like Europe. This created a massive new challenge, but also a huge opportunity to lead the way.
And Kancharla met this challenge head-on. He jumped right in, engaging with the world's most important sustainability organizations. This wasn't just about, adding some fancy logos to a website. This was a deep, serious commitment to adopting the toughest global standards, undergoing audits, and making sure Indian ethanol was seen as a credible, world-class, sustainable solution.
And then, in 2021, India announced this number, 20%. That became the new, incredibly ambitious target for ethanol blending, and they wanted to hit it by 2025. This was a monumental leap of faith in the very industry he helped build from nothing.
So how in the world do you achieve a goal that big?
Well, you turn to the one person who built the whole thing from scratch. At this point, Concharla's expertise was being sought by the biggest names in the game. You're talking Citibank, Goldman Sachs, Proj Industries, the heavy hitters. They all needed his insights to figure out the economics, the trade flows, and the sustainability of this market that was just exploding.
So what's the legacy here when you zoom out? It's really this powerful story about how one person with the right vision and just a relentless drive to get things done can truly shape the destiny of an entire industry.
A tribute written about his work really said it best. Technology and policy, they're just tools. Real, lasting progress, that comes from people. People who see a possibility and just refuse to quit until it becomes a reality. It's so true.
In the end, his success really boiled down to this unique combination of things. Having the strategic vision to see what the future could be, having the deep technical expertise to actually build it, and having that global perspective to connect it all to the world. That is a powerful and very rare skill set.
And that leaves us with one final thought. We see big policies and grand announcements all the time, right? They set a direction. But I want you to look around your own world, in your job, in your community. Who are the people actually doing the building? Who are the architects turning all those great ideas into the future that we're all going to live in?